Hey, worship leader, welcome back to the channel. Today, I have a very special guest for you guys. Welcome, Dave Dolphin of Practical Worship. How's it going, Dave?
Man, it's so good to be here.
Man, glad to have you. Finally, this is your first time on the channel of your own free will.
That's true because you did the whole thing where you were being cute and you're like, hey, I'm going to go make fun of this video that's already getting a lot of heat. And I'm going to jump on that bandwagon because that's pretty much what you were doing. And so now, and I don't even know if this is like fully on my will. You just sent me this weird Zoom link and said, hey, I need you to call me at this time. And I thought you were calling to apologize.
Yeah, well, apologies are not what's coming your way. No. More of a thank you, Dave. Thank you for making all these guitar players angry. They
Oh
are
my word.
livid at you. What have you done?
It's so funny. By the way, do you like my palatial studio? Do you
Love it.
this is I'm because this is YouTube and you need to make sure that your backdrop is like, just on point. And so yeah.
Instead of guitars, you have what is that back there? Some clothing,
Yeah.
things
Yeah,
that are
it's
needed.
this is where I shoot. This is how I do my podcast. I mean, because all the clothes in here are just, dead in the sound. It sounds amazing, but it looks ridiculous.
It does sound amazing. Talk about clothes. Look what I'm wearing today.
Look at you
Woo!
sporting the Practical Worship
Ideas,
merch.
tips, practical
Practical
advice.
advice. I absolutely love it. No,
Get your get your swag. Link in the description.
that's right down below. That's how we all. Yeah,
Yeah,
we're YouTubers. That's
the
how
YouTube thing.
you do the things. You click on my affiliate link. Thanks, supporting the
Yes, do
channel,
that.
Patreon. No, anyways, back to your original question though, and just to kind of let people into the inner circle. Like this was something that we came up with before any of the videos hit. We were talking back and forth, like, what could we do that could be like kind of a collab? Because there are people that will watch Practical Worship that may not know about Hey Worship Leader. There are people that are watching Hey Worship Leader that may not know about Practical Worship. And so, how can we kind of come together and bring those audiences together? Because we're similar in nature that we want to see worship leaders, whether it be through gear or tech or any of that, but just also leadership. We want to see them grow in their ministries and help them to lead thriving, healthy worship leader ministries. And so we had this idea, hey, I've got this video on my channel. I remember I was at my driveway.
Uh-huh.
We were talking on the phone and like, I have an idea. I have this video. It's a couple years old about, how we, just kind of giving a tour of the back line of our, the church I was at, that the guitar players used. But the caveat was that we said if you played for us, that was the back line that you used. And so you used our pedal board and you used our amp. And that brought and I knew, like when I made the video years ago, I knew this would be a thing. And there's certain Facebook groups that will go unnamed. But if you happen to be into praise and worship and you like gear, that might be where you hang out. And I knew like it's just a matter of time. It's
Right.
just a matter of time that they did. It took them about a week and a half and they found it. And like 323 comments later, it was just this firestorm. And it's never stopped since. It's a very passionate, and I knew it would be. Whenever you start getting into someone's space and saying, okay, I need you to do this way, that can be a real passionate thing, especially among creatives. So
Yes.
I knew what I was getting myself into. But the fact that it still has life. And then, yes, we've made these videos back and forth having fun where you reacted to mine and I reacted to yours. And now we're kind of reacting. You and I together are reacting to me reacting to you. It's an inception reaction
It
thing.
is. It just keeps going, and this is the glue video. They need to watch this one, and just behind the curtain a little more. They were real reaction videos. I had not seen that video.
Yes.
You waited to react to mine live, like they were real reaction videos, and
Yes.
I knew, yeah, doing a collab. I'd seen your channel, and I was like, man, his stuff is super helpful. I think it would be good to introduce my people to your channel and vice versa, and I think we did it right. You picked the most controversial topic of all time and you talk about it. But more than that, is something that, fits my channel really well. We talk about gear. We talk about the HX Stomp. I got my pedal board over here. And so I think, my viewers in particular, man, they put in a lot of thought. I do as well. We put in a lot of thought to crafting our tone and fixing our pedal board just the way we like them. And then along comes Dave and says, yeah, not at my church. But no, so I want, yeah, go ahead.
The funny thing is, though, is that it wasn't my idea. Like, I saw another church do that, and where, I mean, it's the same church that, like, they told the drummers what sticks to play because they wanted like a thinner, most drummers will play with like a 5B, which is kind of a fatter stick, and it has a big sound. But if you're trying to control the sound of the drums in the room and not have like a shield or anything like that, you need to play with more of a lighter stick, like a jazz stick, like a 7A, 7B, something like that. And so they're like, these are the sticks you're going to play. It's like, I mean, they were equal opportunity offenders, right, in terms of getting in the space. And so I wasn't the first one to do it. But maybe I'm the first one to put it on YouTube. That was the thing.
Yeah. So I guess the question now that we've gone back and forth, we've seen the videos, we've heard all the reactions. I still get comments on my video. I remember when I posted,
and you will right, for years. It will outlive you. You will be in the nursing home, Jimmy, and you will get a little thing on your phone, ding, and there'll be a comment on that video.
That's right. And I said this before, but I get comments on the videos, but then I get people who feel that they need to email me. It's not even a comment for anybody else. It's just me and them. They're like, hey, I have an answer to this, and I just want to email you directly and tell you my opinion. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. I like communicating with my viewers. So it's but all good. It
shows passion.
It does.
It shows passion.
It is. It's passion. And so, I'm the same way. I think we have the same heart. We talk a lot about gear. We love gear. Gear is a part of the worship leader's life. You cannot escape it. You have to deal with it. But we are passionate about leading people. We're passionate about making our teams better, being organized. And I could tell from watching your video, and I said this in my reaction, that this is coming out of a place of ease for the volunteer, consistency for more volunteers that are sitting in the back production room. You have all these factors to consider. And as a worship leader who has his hands in a bunch of different instruments, creating a system that works is something that I think is valuable. Now, we may all go about it different ways, but at the end of the day, it's like, man, if I'm going to serve at a church and this is what they do, then I can fall into that, because the broader picture of the day is that I want to lead people to Jesus through the music I play. And if I have to play this because this is what this system is, my dad taught me a lesson growing up. He's like, I was like, man, why'd I have to wear something specific? Why'd I have to wear this uniform to school or whatever? And he's like, if you're going to get a job at UPS, you're going to wear brown. Like that's what's going to happen, And so on one level, it's like we are creatives, but at the end of the day, we're not leading worship to just be creative. That's not the end all goal. Now is a part of it, but the main goal, point people to Jesus, give them an opportunity to respond to their creator. Like that's the ultimate goal. And can I do that with my own gear? Yes. Can I do it with someone else's gear? Yes. It may be a little difficult, but I can fall into this because of the broader vision that I'm leading people to Jesus. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted to communicate through my video, and even people watching this video, that our main objective can still be had, even if we don't get all of our preferences. It may not be what we want. And I want, I work really hard on this board right here, and I want to use it. I want to use it, but, and I've said this before in podcasts, but if you're seeking the stage to merely like use your voice or to play guitar, that will quickly run out in a church scenario. You'll get burnout. You'll get bored. That's not what it's for. Go get a gig on the weekend, there's other ways to have creative outlets. I'm rambling now, but that's not, I want to say one more thing. That's not to say that creatives aren't invited to come into the church. I'm just speaking to one side. I always feel like, you speak to one side, you got to speak to the other because it is such a heated topic. I'm not saying don't put effort into your tone. I'm not saying, obviously more than every other video is about how to craft worship tone on this channel. But what I am saying is just make sure the priorities are right.
Yeah. I think that, when we're dealing with we are creatives, and a lot of us, what makes it enjoyable is being able to express ourselves, and that and as long as that's kept in balance, especially like if you're an Enneagram 3, I mean that's part at the core. Like there's you kind of want to be known, you want to be able to express yourself. As long as that's kept in balance, that's not necessarily a bad thing. And so as we play with a band, like you think about the members, I'm a product of the 80s, and so I'm going to mention Van Halen. You think about how those guys play together. They are all very much trying to add their tone, their sound, their fingerprint on the music that they are creating. And so if you are Eddie Van Halen playing in Van Halen, then you want to express yourself. You're gonna have high opinions as to how that tone sounds, how things are mixed, all that kind of stuff. But then he comes in. Eddie Van Halen played on a few records. He's the one that does the solo and Beat It. And there's some other things where he was hired for that sound, that tone, but there's still a producer and an artist that's like, it has a vision, and you kind of have to some degree, submit to that. And so if you're going to be a hired gun for Blake Shelton, then you obviously probably got hired to be in that because you play a certain way. But if you go way off the rails and you sound like you're playing for Ozzy Osbourne, you're probably going to, get dropped off at the next bus stop, and you're not going to continue playing on that tour, because ultimately you need to support the overall vision of that artist and what they're trying to accomplish. And so I think to some degree, there's still a little bit of that where, when you're playing in church, there's an overall vision that the worship leader has, and even the church has, as far as like how we want this to go. And if someone comes in with their fuzz pedal and they want to play all their metal riffs, and we're doing a song by Shane and Shane, that may not fit. And that worship leader might have some opinions about, I want you to change how you're playing. Well, but I want to express myself. So there's the balance, right? Yeah. And so, and I've always come at it from the standpoint, I'm a drummer, and I'm, for decades, I sold my drums years ago because I kept walking into these places where they say, okay, we want you to play our drums. And maybe I got to put my cymbals on the stands, or and maybe even change out my kick pedal and my snare. But I was still told, you play this. And this was my mindset, and I've changed it. My this mindset on this pedal board thing. I'm used to having my crash in a certain place, or maybe having a splash cymbal in a certain place. Well, I'm at this church, and that's not how it's set up. It may not be exactly how I would have set it up, but I'm going to work with that. The same thing is like, okay, well, maybe the reverb is not on the same spot on the board, but I can kind of get used to it. I've kind of retracted on that. And I've learned that there is a, just as much as I said in that original video, that there's an intimate relationship between the player and their guitar, just the sound, where the frets lay, where you can naturally instinctively go. I have definitely learned that there is that with a pedal board as well. And so I've kind of pulled back on that and said, okay, I could see the value in that. I've learned, I've changed. I'm a new man. I've changed.
And that's the whole purpose of this video, is just to give you the ability to talk to the people and let them know you were wrong.
Wait. Maybe I was. No. But I will say this. So like in my current situation, all of our guitar players bring in their own gear, or their own amps, their own pedal boards, or their own guitars. We do have an amp that belongs to one of our members that has graciously said, I'm fine if other people want to use it. It's here. I'm glad that people get to use it. So it's kind of become the house amp. It's a Dr. Z. It's a really good sounding amp. And honestly, all of my players right now will use that amp, not because I told them to, but because ain't nobody want to drag an amp if they don't have to.
Right.
And it's a good sounding amp. I will say that I'm toying around with the idea of maybe investing in a Kemper. And saying, okay, we're done with amps, like live amps that are making like stage noise. Ours is off stage. It's in this little cove area, and it's kind of tucked away, so it doesn't generate a lot of noise. But if we could have a Kemper and invest the money in that, where, okay, you normally play through a Dr. Z, here's a Dr. Z profile. You normally do a Vox, we can pull up the Vox.
Yeah.
And so I was here like like I almost feel like that Apple video from 1984, where like you will do it this way, and then here comes Jimmy Cooper, swinging his thing into the screen. All these references from the 80s. I'm sorry, that's just
Yeah.
how I roll. So I feel like I went from here and now I'm here, and I might come back a little bit. And I've seen other people do that where, you can speak into, here's some profiles you get to choose from, but I do want you to play in this for the same reason that we're going to tell the drummer, you're going to play our house kit, and it's in an aquarium, because we're going for a certain sound. And if you change out the drum kit, that takes an insane amount of time to really dial in the right sound, whereas what we have works for our room. And so we're going to tell you that, but giving you the freedom to maybe speak into the pedal board, into the guitars and that kind of stuff. Haven't done it yet, but I am
Yeah.
toying around with making that investment. But that would be a little bit of, I'm gonna tell you what I want.
Yeah.
And and most people, that the pros that I brought in, they've seemed to be okay with it. There's different levels of how much they liked it,
Right.
but everyone's like, okay. And I will say that those that had to monkey around on a pedal board that they weren't used to and all that, I still feel like they were able to bring in their signature sound. Like, it might have been a little bit more work, and there's value in the discussion of if it's worth that work for them. But I felt like everyone was able to be uniquely themselves, versus like, I'm just going to be a robot.
Right. Yeah. I think about this from two different perspectives. There's I'm the volunteer or the hired gun or whatever. I'm the volunteer coming in to play, or I'm the worship leader who's responsible for all this. And there's two drastic different perspectives, because, as the creative who's thinking about their tone, and maybe that's it. That's all they're thinking about. When you have the worship leader who's thinking about guitar, bass, a new sound guy, couple vocalists that still need to learn harmony parts, a drum kit that is falling apart. You got all this stuff going through their head, and they're just trying to create systems that work. And you don't have to worry about all these other variables if you don't have to. I think there's a good balance, but it's definitely a conversation to have. And if you are just that volunteer, try to think about it from a worship leader perspective. And then as worship leaders, we're also trying to think about it from the volunteer experience. So there is this both. And I think a lot of the comments have come from everywhere. They're like, I'm a pro guitarist, I would never do that. Or yeah, it's just go read the comments, go watch the videos, go read the comments.
There was one comment that I saw, and I'm going to butcher it, but it basically said, when I was a young guitar player, I didn't understand, and now I lead a worship ministry and I do understand. Like, there is that side of it where, like, never mind just the different personalities and everything that's at play and all the things you're trying to balance. I'm also trying to think like a music producer. And so maybe what you're doing and where you're playing that song and the tone that you have is clashing with other things in that sonic space. Like, we might have a keyboard part that needs to kind of cut through, and your part's in the way. And so we might need to make an adjustment. We might need to play with that because it's not blending well with others. We were doing rehearsal last night, and this particular weekend we were running bass tracks. And so sometimes we have a live bass player on stage, but this particular weekend we were running bass tracks. And some of the bass tracks we have are just the originals from the album. Some of them I've actually hired out, where I have a friend that will cut it. And so he's on his Fender Jazz, it goes into a pre, and then he sends me a raw file, pretty much what I would receive if he was sending me a signal live on the stage. There's no compression, there's no EQ or anything like that. It's just the raw signal. And he switches from playing with his fingers to playing with a pick halfway through the song, because it's stylistically what the song needs. Well, the guy running sound was like, okay, there's a drastic difference, and I need to figure out, because I need to EQ these differently, because it's so different. It's not gelling, it's not working. And I remember my first instinct was frustration. I'm like, I don't want to mess with this. I've done this song. I've used this track so many times. It's fine. It's just, you're making, but no, that's his craft. That's what he does. And I bet you if I stood in the room and if I was in his position, I go, yeah, you're right. I didn't actually I have to trust him. And I think there's value in trusting, someone in the room and your sound engineers and all that. But I was like, okay, that's a problem. And so we need to, I need to make the adjustment. I need to say, okay, if it's not fitting, it doesn't matter how cool it was or it's supposed to be or my vision for it or any of that. Eventually you got to play in harmony with these other people. But there's the other side of what you said too. As far as you got to think about like a worship leader. I think worship leaders need to think about it as a volunteer. Part of the, for lack of a better word, the payment for serving on the team is it should be fun. Like it should be something that you enjoy doing. No one wants to come to rehearsal or be a part of something that's just a drag. It should be enjoyable. It should be fun. It should be fulfilling. It should open up something inside of them that I feel like God created. And that comes out. There should be I think it's one of the reasons why God set up the church that as he did, that, it's not about the feelings, but there should be something inside of us that opens up that feels fulfilled because we're operating in the calling that we have. And so we as leaders need to think about that. That could be as simple as starting on time and honoring the time of the people that are there, especially the ones that showed up early versus the ones that showed up late. Even for the player that maybe is a youth that doesn't have the budget to spend on their gear. If you can provide gear, like, let's say you don't force someone to play a pedal board, but it's here if you want it. And they're like, oh my gosh, I mean, I get to play this. I mean, the board that we put together was a couple $1,000s. It's, and the amp that we were using, the Vox amp, I mean, we spend almost $1,000 on that. I mean, that's a $2,000 or $3,000 setup that if you're a youth and you get to play that,
yeah,
how cool is that? Like that makes it better. So how can we as worship leaders make it as enjoyable as possible to do the task that we've all been called to do?
Yeah, for sure. And, we have the church, like you were saying, the church is full of different people. Jesus built his church with not all the same type person. And I was just, as you were saying, I was reflecting back over the past few years at the church I'm at, and God has gifted us with several very talented guitar players that all have their own gear, all have their own sound. And at first I remember thinking like, I wanted it to sound this certain way, but then how much joy and how much, like when I released that, because it's not like I was dealing with somebody who wasn't playing very well. It was just a different type of style, but it also did fit the song. It wasn't like they were shredding, crazy stuff. I'm not talking anything too extreme. I was just like, I had one guy that was like afraid of reverb. Like he didn't want any reverb in his sound at all. Super dry, but he was like our best guitar player and he could fill up the space in a very tasteful way. Most talented guitar player at our church. He's now at another church. He had to move away, but and we miss him. Come back. And then, I had another guitar player who loved reverb and dotted eighth, and every single part, had that sound to it. But at the end of the day, it was like, that was him. And the church enjoyed it when that person played. They're like, oh, I just love it when he's on stage. He brings this certain energy. And somebody else would say something about the other person. It was just kind of gave this, we are all one church. We're not all clones of each other, but we can all express each other differently. And because I made a system that worked and I told them what I expected, and then they could be creative within that system, I think it really worked for us. And it still does to this day, except I don't have hardly any electric guitar players anymore. They've all moved away. So we're relying on. I know.
Same.
Where are they? You know what I do have plenty of are female vocalists. I keep getting those. And I have more auditions coming up. I'm like, you don't play drums or bass or electric guitar, do you?
Yeah.
Please.
Would you want to take some lessons?
We have a church pedal board and amp.
Yeah. And we won't even make you use it if you don't want to.
If you don't want to. Oh man. Yeah. So, another part of this video, I just wanted the people to know that we're actually friends. I'm supporting. I mean, look at this.
I see you. I see you.
Boom. Website. There's a
Yeah,
plug.
I remember when that order came through, and I texted you. It's like, I see you.
I see.
I see
I don't know
you.
how you saw my name with all the orders, how you just saw mine,
I,
but yeah.
because I go through and I look at every single one of those three.
And you pray over them. One of those
I
three.
do.
That's right. Yes. Awesome. Man, so what's next for you? Are you going to learn electric guitar more? Are you going to be leading this Sunday from electric guitar?
No, I have toyed around with that idea because we joke about the, looking for guitar players. I'm serious. Like I literally have a spreadsheet of a dozen names that I'm like trying to keep track of, because I haven't gotten like hard nose. Sorry, my son is texting me. I haven't got any like hard nose on certain things, but like I'm busy this particular weekend, but I'm not busy that particular weekend, and so just to kind of keep them all straight. But like recruiting and bringing in guitar players, it's a thing.
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't know if that's what I'll do. I have toyed around with the idea of learning rhythm electric.
yeah,
And because I have a couple of good acoustic players where when I have them on the stage, they'll play acoustic. And then I'll play too, and I might change, like we might, you play the capo on this place, and I'll play open, and it'll change the chords, like it'll sound nice and full. We're not playing all the same things. But I thought, man, it'd be kind of nice if you play acoustic, and then maybe I'll play rhythm electric. But here's my problem, because I'm a hack at like most of these instruments. My main instrument's drums. That's
yeah.
that's my main instrument. And I have led worship from the drums. It's been a long time ago, but I have done it. And there have been some Sundays where I have someone else lead and I play the drums. I've done that.
That's
But
awesome.
I'm a hack. I know 9 chords on my acoustic. I move my capo up and down. I play in the key of Chris Tomlin. But the thing about the rhythm electric is that you have to be so much more careful about how your fingers, how they like go down on the frets, because you can bend them so much easier,
Mhm.
and things sound out of tune very quickly. And so the next step for me would be to learn how to not put so much tension when I'm voicing my chords. Although I have teenagers, and my oldest, who's 17, has decided in all the same year to pick up acoustic, electric, bass, and piano. And he's actually getting really proficient
Why not?
at all of them. Like
Wow.
he played bass in the student band last night. He's getting to a point on rhythm electric where I like that's usable. Like we can do that. And
Man,
so
send him to North Carolina,
well, I need him here.
Oh,
I
yeah.
told you I need guitar. What we might need to do is like play the Sarah McLachlan song in the background, like Angels, and say,
Yeah.
every 4 days a worship leader goes without an electric guitar player.
That's right.
Send help. You can be
Please.
call now 1-800 need
That's
guitar player.
That's exactly right. Yeah, for me, man, I played lead while leading last week, and it sounded good.
That's hard.
Love my tone, but it was too hard. And I noticed that I just didn't engage with the people as much because I was thinking about my parts. And so this week, I'm the only electric guitar player. There are a few lead lines. We're doing like great things to open. It's like whatever that lead line is. I should know it. But this week I just played rhythm, left that lead line in the track. That kind of goes against my nature. But I was like, this is kind of one of those things. It was like, what's more important to me playing that lead line? Leading my people well. And if I'm so caught up in leading that line, because I'm not an amazing guitar player. I have to put thought to what I'm playing, or I'll play the wrong note and just add a little delay and reverb, and it's there for a minute, that wrong note. I was like, I got over myself, and I was like, I'm just going to leave it in the track. Something I just felt like I would never, ever, ever do. I just left that lead line in the track and played rhythm because I felt like that's what would serve the church best. And yeah,
I think that there is a phrase that I've heard that some things are a problem to solve and some things are a tension to manage. And that has really helped me, because sometimes we feel like we have to solve the thing. The problem is, once you solve it, you might have created a new problem. Like if you want to make sure that like everyone knows their parts, and so you just hammer down on those parts, you might solve that problem, but you've now created a new problem because there's this like tension and animosity and all this within the team. And so some things aren't a problem to solve. Sometimes it's a tension to manage. I'm the same way too. I don't generally like to have a lead electric or something that is just so in your face. in the track. If I see it or if I hear it, I want to see it.
Yeah.
But I could see in that situation where you say, okay, so I'm balancing this, right? And it's that lead line is just for a moment. It's just for a small little section. I do want to have it in there, but so it might be kind of weird for a moment, but it would be more weird if I was focusing on all these lead lines and not engaging the congregation. And so this is the balance. This is the tension to manage. And you might do it differently, a different time, in a different situation. Like you even talked about your different guitar players, how one would play with lots of effects and one would play super dry. I would imagine that if, like if I was in your shoes, I would probably, I would think about certain songs that might cater to that. Like when I plan that set, I would say, okay, I have Eric playing electric and he likes us to play a certain way. Maybe it's more 80s inspired, which we need more of. And maybe I might lean that way. I have a guitar player that is not super fancy, but he also does like some real tasteful things. And so I might not get him like a solo, but he does like really good with a slide. And so doing a song like Goodness of God or Build My Life or something like that can really benefit from a slide. Okay, because I know I have that player, how can I highlight their strengths and kind of cater to that so they can play in their wheelhouse and they can play in a way that they enjoy that still kind of serves. Like I'm not going to, the guy that plays super dry, I'm not going to give him a song that really needs to sound like Coldplay or U2. But the one that has lots of effects and all that, how can I set them up to win? Same thing with singers. How can I, there might be situations where they need to stretch and do that, but how can I set them up to succeed? And how can I know that I'm never going to solve this? I'm never going to, there's not an arrival point. It's something that you're always just going to have to balance. And you never reach a state of equilibrium. Did I say that word? Is that a thing?
That's a thing.
It is a thing, but you manage it. And as long as you approach it that way, then I feel like it positively affects how you lead your ministry and your people.
Yes, for sure. And that's awesome. Those are good words. So, hey, where can people find you? If this is the first of the inception of videos and they haven't seen the other ones, I'll link those down below, but where can they find you?
Well, my MySpace page is no. No, if you search for Practical Worship on the internet, Practical Worship blog is kind of the home base for a lot of the things that I do. If you search for Practical Worship on YouTube, you can find me there. And then pretty much on all the socials, if you find me there at Dave Dolphin OK.
Okay. Is that for Oklahoma?
I guess it started back when I wanted, I jumped on Twitter. I was like, I probably need, Facebook was like the first social that I did. But I remember jumping on Twitter and Dave Dolphin was already taken, which seems weird to me because Dolphin just doesn't seem like a common last name.
And then come to
find, by the way, DaveDolphin.com is not owned by me as well. It's owned by this DJ out in Los Angeles.
I saw that website looking for you one time.
and one day I happened to like see his resume or whatever, and his name isn't even Dave Dolphin. Like he goes by Dave Dolphin. And I'm like, that's my name.
Your actual name is a stage name.
Identity theft is not a joke, Jim.
Millions of people are hurt every year.
That's where it started. So because Dave Dolphin was taken on Twitter, I was like, well, I'm in Oklahoma, and that sounds kind of like Dave Dolphin. Okay.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah. It's like, hey, worship leader. Dave Dolphin.
Hey, worship leader. Which, by the way, I am jealous. I'm jealous of your branding. I will admit it. I don't even need to go to the 12-step program. I am jealous of Hey Worship Leader because it just that, Practical Worship came from, that idea came from like the late 90s. It started as a Twitter handle. Same concept as far as like, how do you pour into worship leaders and all that. But so I've been hanging on to that name, since the late 90s. And then you come in with Hey Worship Leader. And I'm like, why didn't I think of that? That's brilliant. It's just like, you can start a video and say, hey, worship leader.
Yeah. I probably don't take it. It's so funny you say that because that was my intent. It's like, hey, I'm just starting a conversation with worship leaders. I've said it so many times now. It's like I struggle saying it and not feeling weird. Like I have so many outtakes of me going, hey, worship leader. Hey, worship leader. Hey, worship leader. You know,
Hey, worship leader.
My
How
wife
you
makes fun of
doing?
me, and I'm like, so sometimes I don't even say it. But yeah, I do love the name. I've had people, you know, have opinions about it. They're like, sounds kind of like Teeny Bopper or something. I was like, cool. That's fine with me. I don't care. And look, we have Dave Dolphin, the oldest worship leader in America, and he loves it.
That's right. Wait.
Wait, what?
Wait. Again, you invite me on here like, you know, hey, you're going to apologize. And yeah, and you still have not.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that wasn't in the script though. No, I'll text it to you later. Well, man, I appreciate you coming on here. Thank you for clearing up or making this more muddy. I think the conversation was helpful though. And
there'll still be comments. There'll be comments on this video.
Yeah. Well, yes, I can't wait. So if you haven't already, go subscribe to his channel, Practical Worship. Also my channel, this channel. You're here. You might as well hit the little button, subscribe, like the video if you did, share it with others, get this highly controversial content circulating all the more. And yeah, we'll see you in the next video. Bye.